Hello folks and welcome to Centre Ice UK. I'm your host Raymond Monaghan and thanks again for joining us on the second CI UK podcast. Big thank you to everyone who listened to the first podcast last week. I'm absolutely delighted to have passed just over the 1,000 downloads mark. It's went far beyond anything I could have possibly hoped for this early on in the venture, so just another big thank you to all to making it such a big success. If you want to let me know what you think of the podcast, any suggestions, or maybe you wish to contribute to the pod, then just drop an email to comments@centreiceuk.com. Remember, you can like us on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/centreiceuk. You can also follow on Twitter, and that's @centreiceuk. It's been a busy week for the Rapid Solicitors Elite League, so let's drop the puck at centre ice and start the first period. Let's start off with last weekend's results, starting off with Saturday night. Cardiff Devils overcame the Hull Stingrays by 4-1. The Braehead Clan overcame Fife Flyers 7-4 there in the Gardner Conference matchup. Sheffield Steelers defeated the Dundee Stars by 4-1 at Ice Sheffield, and the match live on Premier Sports, the Belfast Giants edged out the Coventry Blaze by 3-2. On to Sunday, and it was the same as you were at the Sky Dome. Coventry Blaze lost out again 3-2 to the Belfast Giants, however this time it went to a shootout to decide the final outcome. And in a reverse of the Gardner Conference matchup as well, Braehead travelled to Fife and came out on top 4-0 at Fife Ice Arena. Then to Cardiff. Cardiff actually overcame the Sheffield Steelers in a bit of a surprise result by 3-1. And then in front of a 1,600 bumper crowd at the Murrayfield Ice Rink, the Edinburgh Capitals defeated the Hull Stingrays by 5-3. I was present at both matches last weekend between the Braehead Clan and the Fife Flyers. While I was at Fife Ice Arena, I grabbed Media and Community Officer Ross Cunningham during the first intermission for a quick chat about his role with the club. Ross, thanks very much for taking a few minutes to speak to us.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So Ross, since it's match night, could you tell me about a couple of things that you do on the match night?
Well, as obviously Media and Community Officer through the week, do things in the schools and things, but at the weekends I'm filming the games. There's someone that films the games for the highlights of the matches, but I'm there trying to get maybe a bit closer to the action, maybe a few goal celebrations, incidents that happen in the game that I could put online later on, and also do the post-match interviews as well.
Now, what kind of challenges do you face filming a game up close? Because obviously for us it's not as easy as just pointing the camera and hitting record button, is it?
It's not. I think last season I was actually a bit closer to the centre ice, but a few kind of dodges of pucks flying about. I've kind of moved across into the corner. It's difficult, but it's easy. It's quite easy to film ice hockey, say, compared to football, which I do on the weekends for St Johnstone. That's a bit further away. I really like ice hockey. Everybody's on the ice, the way they move and things like that, and you get the celebrations up close as well. You're a bit closer to the action. It's quite enjoyable to film the Flyers.
And during the week, you mentioned about community work there. Could you tell us a bit more of what you do during the week?
Yeah, well, it's a really important thing at the club, from the directors down and through the coaching staff and the players, that they're out in the community a lot. It's good exposure for the club, but it's great to try and emphasise positive messages of healthy eating, active lifestyle, getting into sports to the kids, usually primary schools and scout groups and things like that. But I think a lot of the time as well, especially in Scotland, the exposure of ice hockey isn't that great through the media, so it's a good chance to kind of tell these kids about ice hockey and how they can get involved in ice skating as well, figure skating, ice hockey, and just kind of come along to the matches.
And when did you start working for the Flyers, and how did that come about for you?
Yeah, well, I started my video business after leaving university a couple of years ago, and I was kind of looking for places to try and as an outlet for advertising initially. I wasn't actually an ice hockey fan at all. I'd never been to an ice hockey game before, but I stay in Glenrothes, about 5 minutes drive from the ice rink, and I came in, really enjoyed it. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it, and so started doing Flyers TV initially, just that on its own, and it's kind of grown into more responsibility to do with things like the community and also things about kind of promoting the club as well. So I've really enjoyed it, and it's a great sport.
How special does it feel to work for an institution that's been going on for so long and it's been embedded so much with the local community?
Yeah, it's in Fife as well. I think that anyone that I speak to, even if they haven't been to a game this season or last season, they've been in the past, or their dad's been, or their mum's been, or their family's been. It is really ingrained in the community in Fife, and I think we've got a big advantage over other clubs in Scotland and some in England as well, that where we've had this as part of the culture, the oldest club in the UK. So it's a great thing, and it was great the celebrations we had this year with the Legends match, and having all these great players from the past coming back for fans nowadays to see who these names are being talked about from the past. So it's a great honour to work for a club like this.
And what would you say, if there's one thing you could pick, what you enjoy most of working for the Flyers?
With the Flyers, I think it's just great to have a club, because in Fife, I mean, if you think about Scotland, you think about Glasgow and Edinburgh and maybe Aberdeen, like the bigger cities and stuff. It's great to have a team that is the oldest club in the UK within Fife, in Kirkcaldy. It's a great platform, and it's just great that we've got a team that's representing the community of Fife across the rest of the UK, where these places probably wouldn't have heard of Fife otherwise. And it's great to see the team, especially last year, doing so well. And I think we're gradually getting a bit more pace with the club this year. It's great for Fife to have a club as old as this is, to be doing as well as it can be.
Well, Ross, thanks very much for taking a few minutes out of the intermission there. Look forward to see what the Flyers will be coming up with next for Flyers TV.
Cool. You're welcome, thank you.
Many thanks to Ross Cunningham there. Nice of him to give me a few minutes of his spare time during that first intermission. Now on to the fixtures for this week. It's quite a busy calendar. Wednesday night, the Nottingham Panthers, not long back from their Continental Cup exploits, which we'll talk about a little later on, they overcame the Edinburgh Capitals by 4-1. Friday night, the Coventry Blaze will start 3 games in 3 nights up in Scotland. They start off going to visit the Dundee Stars. Moving on to Saturday, Hull Stingrays host the Sheffield Steelers. Braehead Clan take on the Edinburgh Capitals at Braehead Arena. The Fife Flyers host the Coventry Blaze. The match live on Premier Sports will be at the Big Blue Tent between the Cardiff Devils and the Nottingham Panthers. Sunday's fixtures, and it's a return fixture at the NIC between the Nottingham Panthers and the Cardiff Devils. Fife Flyers travel down to the Motorpoint Arena to play the Sheffield Steelers. The Hull Stingrays will host the Braehead Clan. The Dundee Stars entertain league leaders the Belfast Giants, and the Coventry Blaze wrap up their Scottish road trip against the Edinburgh Capitals. That's it, time for the buzzer now for the first period, and we go on to the second period. Now on to the latest disciplinary news from the EIHL. Only 2 items to update you on today. Hull Stingrays defenceman Matt Suderman received a match penalty for travesty, which, to be honest, that's a new penalty on me and shows you what I know. No further action is going to be taken by the league on that one. Time is considered served by the compulsory match ban given against Edinburgh last Sunday. Braehead Clan forward Tristan Harper, he got handed a free match ban. He was assessed a match penalty for checking to the head, and that was supplementary discipline, and that was by request of the Fife Flyers. So Harper will now miss the following 3 games against the Edinburgh Capitals, the Hull Stingrays and the Nottingham Panthers next Friday. On to transactions this week. Jonas Lintemann, who we told you signed for the Cardiff Devils last week, his arrival to Cardiff has been postponed 1 week. Kyle Haynes joined the Fife Flyers from the Beaconsfield Condors of the ECHL in ice last weekend against the Braehead Clan, notching 2 goals on his debut. Brian McMillan was released from the Coventry Blaze just a couple of days ago. And the big one, of course, that you should all know about, Robert Farmer joins the Nottingham Panthers from the Alaska Aces. That's all the transactions this week. My next guest now is the one and only Aaron Murphy to chat about the Premier Sports TV coverage. Murph, many thanks for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule to join me on Centre Ice UK.
No problem, Ray. The pleasure is mine, buddy. Thanks for including me.
We of course got to see the test footage 2 weeks ago before seeing the first live run this past Saturday night. Already some great tweaks and improvements made in the show by the crew at Premier Sports. Can we hope to see things continue to evolve over the course of the season?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, when we did the test broadcast October 19th, we knew that it was a dry run, so to speak. And actually, that was never really going to be broadcast. But when it was brought back in house, Premier Sports, they looked at it and said, "Well, this is actually pretty good. Let's put it out there. Let's show it." So the test run actually went better than we thought it would. And then, of course, on top of that, then you make some improvements, and you saw that in the live on last Saturday. So, I mean, from one to the other, there was a great step made, and from, the first live one, Belfast at Coventry, we'll see improvements and different tweaks as we go forward. Of course, you're never going to get it 100% exactly how you want it on the first one. That's just not the nature of, live television. So keep your eye out. There's a few treats in store in the coming months. I'll have to keep it under my hat for now. But yeah, certainly there will be an evolution and some things that viewers will hopefully get excited about.
Can you give us an idea of what the kind of feedback you've been receiving about the broadcast? The folk I've spoke to about it have been extremely pleased with the package, most notably getting to see the highlights throughout the league.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback's been really good. I'd say, 95% really good. I was actually overwhelmed by some of the messages and some of the feedback on Twitter and those sort of social media sites. Saturday and Sunday, just bombarded with some really kind and thoughtful messages. So I was really, really appreciative of that. You're always going to have a few people say this and that, but, negatively, but that's just the nature of social media as well. To be honest, I was really surprised by how kind people were, and a lot of people reached out to me, colleagues, people I really respect. So when those people are telling you it was a good show, it was a good job, then you're on the right path. So yeah, so far the feedback's been good. And look, you look at that was 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours of elite ice hockey league. You had a half-hour highlight show. You had a pregame show with the Mike Eggener interview and coaches' interviews about the live game, and then you went into the live game. Basically, over 3 hours of elite ice hockey league on a Saturday night. That's a pretty good package.
And what about your thoughts on the match as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic game, to be honest. We got very lucky, not lucky, but like the storylines were there, right? The Shea Guthrie, the Mike Eggener, and then, Belfast coming to town as a top-of-the-table team. But you saw, how important Dustin White-Cotton is to Belfast and how well Colin Shields is playing. It was a fantastic game, and, the Blaze were down 2-0, but they came back and really showed that with a full bench, and, Benny Olsen was joining me in commentary, but he's eventually going to be back in the lineup. With a full bench, they're going to be a force to reckon with, and they gave the top of the table Belfast Giants all they could handle Saturday night, and then again Sunday had to go to extra time and a shootout. So, I mean, look, the Blaze are a good team, and with a full bench, they're going to give people a run for their money. This league, the Elite League, when you're losing a couple of imports or you've got a couple of suspensions or a couple of injuries, it's very tough. But the Blaze are a good team, and their goalie, Mike Zacharias, is very good. And, of course, on the other side of the puck, the Giants are leading the league for a reason. They're very deep. They have goals from everywhere. I mean, Calvin Elfring and Cody Brookwell might be the best pairing in the league, and Stephen Murphy is an elite level goaltender. Both teams put on a show on Saturday, so we were very fortunate to have a great game there.
How about a mention to Ben Olsen as well, not just for his sharp attire, but the great job he done on both shows?
Yeah, you know what, Ben? That was one of my goals. Obviously I'd rather see him on the ice, but when I knew he was hurt, I know Ben from my time working on Blaze TV last year. So I know Ben is a well-spoken guy. He's articulate, and like most tough guys in ice hockey, he's actually kind of a gentle soul. He's quite well-spoken. So I knew bringing him in would show him a different side of his personality to the fans, other than the guy who just goes out there and hits hard and fights. But Ben can play the game. He plays the game very well. He's a good defensive defenseman, and his insights are very important. I could see, when the Blades were killing 5-on-3s, he was talking about how important different tactics are, and what Matty Soderstrom, the coach of the Blades, would be telling his players. So yeah, great job by Ben Olsen. You got to remember he's never done a live national television broadcast before, and I think he pulled it off. So tip of the hat to Ben Olsen for doing something and really showing his ability and his knowledge of the game.
Your next match this Saturday night is the Cardiff Devils hosting the Nottingham Panthers. How do you see that one going, especially if, as expected, Robert Farmer ices for them?
Yeah, Farmer is a good signing for Nottingham, and they had a real good effort in the Continental Cup last weekend, so it's going to be, it's going to be a situation where they might have heavy legs. There's some injuries there, but they'll be okay. I mean, they're the class of the league last year, and they played really well in Italy at the Continental Cup. really represented the league and Great Britain very well. On the other side of the coin, Cardiff, Lacoste, their goalie who had all that sort of trouble with concussions early in the season, he's back and playing very well. And I think Mac Faulkner is one of the best players in the Elite League. So this could be a really interesting game Saturday at the Big Blue Tent. It's always tough to go in there and win as well. It's one of the more imposing places, So it won't be a walkover either way. I mean, tune in Saturday. I think it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a real good game, and I wouldn't bet the house on either side of the ledger.
Finally, just before we let you go, can you remind us how fans can get involved in the live broadcasts?
Yeah, you can. We definitely encourage. We try to involve people on Saturday past. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at @MurphOnIce. The hashtag is Premier EIHL, and of course you can get in touch at Premier Sports TV. And you can go on www.premiersports.tv to check out the fixtures and to see all the EIHL news, and also to subscribe to the channel. The games are also available on our version of our online player. So it's a good thing. I got to start getting the word out to players who, families are in Canada or the U.S. or whatever. The games will be live on our Premier Player, which is also information on the website. So plenty of ways to get involved, and please reach out, questions, queries, comments. We'll do our best to answer as many as possible. So, yeah, I always appreciate viewers getting in touch.
Aaron Murphy, Premier Sports, thank you very much for your time, and I hope it's another great show for the cameras.
Thank you very much, Ray. A pleasure, and thanks for having me on your podcast. Anytime you need me, you've got my number, and I'll always make time. A pleasure.
Big thanks to Aaron Murphy there for speaking to me for a few minutes. He's a very busy man. Best of luck to him this Saturday night, though I'm sure he won't need it. That concludes the second period. Let's get to the final session and talk about the Continental Cup. Nottingham, of course, flying the flag for the EIHL in the Continental Cup. They proceeded to the third round, Group D, hosted by Asiago Ice Hockey Club in Italy. Nottingham started off the group on the Friday afternoon and played against the Russian side Toros Nefakamsky. Unfortunately, the Panthers lost that match by 4-3. However, they did have better luck on the Saturday afternoon against the Kazakh side Yurtas Pavlodar, coming out on top in that match by 2-1. Results from the other games meant that a regulation win against the host Asiago on the Sunday night, the very last game of all the matches, would see them through to the Super Final. It just wasn't to be in the end, unfortunately, for the Panthers. It finished 3-2 to the hosts in regulation time. I was lucky enough last week to speak to the captain of the Asiago side, David Borrelli, and I'm pleased to say he joins me again, and we get his reaction for Asiago proceeding to the Super Final. David, welcome back to Centre Ice UK. It's great of you to join us again so soon.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
First off, congratulations to you and the rest of the Asiago team on making the Super Final stage of the Continental Cup. Just how good is everyone feeling after pulling off such a great achievement?
Yeah, it was a great tournament for us. I think it helped a lot being at home in front of our crowd and, building off our crowd. But the tournament was, phenomenal. All 4 teams, I think, that were in it was a great competition for us, to place ourselves amongst the best. So, it was a great opportunity, and I think we embraced it.
You won all 3 matches, and the rest were all tied on points for second spot. Did that reflect just how strong this group was and making topping it all the more pleasing for you?
Yeah, it was a very strong group. I think any team in the group could have won it. I think with us being at home, having a little bit of advantage of being here, and getting settled easier than all the other teams that were traveling. I think that could put a lot of toll on the guys. After that travel. But I think, the points were so close with the teams, and, it comes to show right at the very end. It came down to any team. If Toros would have won their game, it would have came down to a tiebreaker, if we would have lost to Nottingham. So it could have went either way, and it was nice that we won all 3 games, but it was very close, yes.
You went into that final match against Nottingham to determine the group winner. You came out on top 3-2. What was your perspective on the match?
I think for us it was obviously one of our toughest matches. Not just being Nottingham, but the position I think both teams were in. I think we had a great start, and then Nottingham, put a lot of pressure on us. They knew what they had to do, and we kind of knew what we had to do. And then, the power play that, kind of broke the back was the 3-2, and we knew that they still had to score 2 goals because of the situation we were in. So I think it was a little easier on us, but they played us, I think for us and our team, I think it was the toughest team in the tournament for sure, because I think finally, they got into their groove and they were settled here in Asiago a couple of days. So for us, it was the toughest, and especially for the situation, right? Because it could have went either way. Either team with a win could have been in the tournament or into the next round. So it was definitely our toughest challenge.
Nottingham's game, of course, heavily based on that North American style, which tends to get penalised more by the IIHF refs. It can be very hard to adjust just for the short term. Did you have an acclimation period to the different style of refereeing?
Well, I think a lot of our guys with international experience on the team, I think they kind of knew that, after we watched the first game between Nottingham and I believe they played Taurus the first game, we knew that they were calling everything, the refs, and we knew that we had to kind of stay away from that. And yeah, it's a different game in England. It's more, like you said, North American style hockey, which, it's tough on the players because it's, there's a little more clutching and grabbing, and here in IHF, they call a lot of, big hits with, maybe shouldn't have been called. And, so it's kind of adjusting your game. And I think it's tough for everybody because you never know what kind of referee you're going to get every other night. And like, in our game against Nottingham, I think we had more, obviously, power plays. I don't know if that was in favor of us because we were the home team or what, but, that's just the way it panned out. And, I think both teams had opportunities to score on the power play, and, that's just the way it went.
Chris Domenico was top point scorer and bagged all his 7 points as assists. Just how big a playmaker has he been for the club?
Oh, he's been a huge part since last year. I was lucky enough to play with him last year, and he's just, he's a great player. He sees the ice very well. He's a very intense player. He loves the game. He's always the first guy out on the ice, and he's always the guy on, if we have an optional skate, he's always out there still. And, he just brings a lot to our team. He's, like I said, a very emotional guy. But he's been a huge part of our team, and he helps out our first line tremendously. He's just got great vision around the ice, and he scores goals and he comes to play at big time. So it's great.
You've played in a few of these short-winded IIHF tournaments now. Would you say special teams play an even greater role than normal?
I think the power play and the penalty kill are a huge part of, especially in these tournaments, because like I said, the refs here, you might get away with something, and like our league or the English league that you would never get away with in the IIHF. The way their refs are trained, I think they call a lot more, and I think power play and penalty kill is huge in a tournament like this, especially when they're calling that many penalties.
Final stage of the Continental Cup takes place in the second week of 2014, though I take it your eyes will be firmly focused on maintaining your place at the top of the Italian league.
Yeah, that's our main focus right now, but our focus at the beginning of the year was we have 4 tournaments throughout the season. We have the Super Copa that we do against the champions from the league last year, and also the Coppa Italia that we have during the season. They play off, and we were lucky enough to win that, so that that helps with experience at the beginning of the season. And then winning the Continental Cup was another goal for us, and moving on to that next step. And we've done that. And this actually weekend coming up, we got the Super Copa, or the Coppa Italia, for our league versus Renault and Brunico. So hopefully we can win that, and then winning the championship. But looking on to Rouen, it's going to be very tough. The teams there are obviously there for a reason. It's going to be tough there, and we've been lucky enough to be there before, so it might help us out a little bit with knowing the area and what it's going to take.
David, it's been absolutely fantastic to get your thoughts and views out there to our listeners. I just want to wish you the best of luck for the rest of your season for yourself and Asiago, and thank you for your time once again speaking to Centre Ice UK.
Oh, thank you so much, and we appreciate everything. Like we got to say, you guys are definitely the best fans, and I loved how they supported everything. They were at every game, cheering for every team. So it was great, and thank you. It's been an honor, and thanks for having me.
David Borrelli there, captain of Asiago Ice Hockey Club. Absolute pleasure to speak to, and thanks to him and Asiago Ice Hockey Club for allowing me to speak to him. That's about it for this week's Centre Ice UK. Let us know what you thought, or if you have any suggestions in the future, or even if you wish to contribute, just comments at centreiceuk.com, or you can send me a tweet at centreiceuk. Remember, Premier Sports, 7pm, Cardiff Devils v Nottingham Panthers. If you can't watch it, please record it. And to find out the latest happenings of the Elite League, just head to eliteleague.co.uk.